Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond Retention, how to position your school district as the best place to work, grow, and thrive. As you're joining the webinar, we'd love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. Share your name, the district you're from, and something awesome you're doing to offer a great work environment or culture in your district. Again, if you're just joining us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, share your name, the district you're from, and something awesome you're doing to offer a great work environment or culture. As you're introducing yourself, just a few housekeeping items. First, this is hosted in Zoom, and all attendees will be muted during the webinar. If you do have any questions or would like to share comments, you can use the chat feature or the Q&A. The webinar will also be recorded and emailed to you after the webinar, and you'll also get a copy of the report. It's now my pleasure to hand it over to my colleague at K-12 Insight, Dr. Koisen, to kick off our introductions for today's presenters.
Thank you, Olivia. As Olivia said, my name is Jennifer Koisen. I am the Director of Research Operations at K-12 Insight. I have been with the company for a little over 7 years, and through that time have done a lot of work with school districts on school climate, district climate, as well as employee engagement and strategic planning. So we're really excited to have you all here today for this conversation on employee engagement in K-12 education. I am joined by my colleague, Dr. Amy Fries, and she's going to help us dive into the findings from our Spring 2024 National Report on Customer Service in Schools, as well as one of our district partners, East Maine School District 63, and they're going to share their experiences with measuring and improving employee engagement in their district. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Fries now, and she's going to share more about her background as well as continue our guest speaker introductions.
Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Fries, and I'm one of the senior research consultants here at K-12 Insight. I've been supporting school districts on school climate, DEI, and employee engagement surveys for the past 5 years. And prior to that, I was a middle school teacher and remember just how difficult teaching was or is. I also remember that there were limited opportunities for me to provide feedback about my experience in the classroom. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about talking about employee engagement today. And one reason I love our surveys because they provide staff a chance to share more about their experiences. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Schleiser and Janet Spector-Bishop to introduce themselves and share more about their background.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Sean Schleiser. I am the superintendent of East Maine School District 63. I've been in this position since 2022. And before that, I started in the district as a principal at Melzer Elementary School and subsequently became the assistant superintendent of human resources and associate superintendent. Prior to that, I was an assistant principal in Elmwood Park, District 401, and served as the principal in School District U46 in Elgin, Illinois, but also worked as a teacher and assistant principal in Evanston Skokie School District 65. Educationally, I earned my doctorate at National Louis University and a Master of Education degree in Planning and Social Policy Administration from Harvard University, and earned my undergraduate degree at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I've been an educator for just about 30 years, and I'm pleased to report that I love my job.
Hi, I'm Janet Spector-Bishop, and I joined District 63 as Director of Communications in 2015. I've spent more than 35 years in the public and nonprofit sectors, managing communications, public relations, marketing, as well as conducting a wide range of internal and external surveys. I previously served as the communications director for the village of Glenview, Illinois, and the senior marketing manager for our local community college. Before I jumped to the public side, I was the director of communications for the Illinois chapter of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. I hold master's degrees from the University of Minnesota in Public Affairs and in English from Northwestern University, and received my undergraduate degree from Washington University in St. Louis. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. So this webinar is part of our series where we dive into the findings from our National Report on Customer Service in Schools, which is published throughout the school year. The series launched in 2022 with the goal of equipping K-12 school districts with the insights and trends education leaders need to use to inform their engagement, customer service, and communication strategies. Today, we're going to be sharing our first report of 2024, which is all about measuring employee engagement and how to position your school district as one of the best places to work. Today, our goal for you is to walk away with some national research on employee engagement trends to bring back to your team, some strategies for how to measure engagement and satisfaction, including best practices for annual employee engagement surveys and employee net promoter score pulse surveys, or eNPS pulse surveys. And finally, some actionable recommendations for improving employee engagement. Please be sure to stay until the end and you can have early access to the full report. And now I am going to hand it back over to Amy to get started.
Thank you, Jenny. To kick things off, we want to provide context and share how we define employee engagement here at K12 Insight. Employee engagement encompasses an individual's connection with their profession and their current role. Understanding how connected employees are to their workplace and their career is an important factor in becoming a high-performing school district, and also keeping staff satisfied in their roles so that they want to stay. So speaking of retention and recruiting staff, we want to hear from you. So we know that this is a particularly busy time of year for identifying openings and making a plan to fill those positions for the next school year. So please take a moment and let us know what you're anticipating for the upcoming hiring season. Do you anticipate higher than normal openings for the upcoming school year? Yes, no, about the same, or not sure? Let us know in the poll. We'll just leave that there for a moment for you all to participate. But again, do you anticipate higher than normal openings for the upcoming school year? Let us know in the poll. And if you didn't introduce yourself in the chat yet, please go ahead and do that. Let us know where you are joining us from and something exciting that your district is doing to offer a great work environment and culture.
All right, Amy, I think I'll launch the results.
Oh, split. Okay, so it looks like some of you are aligned with what we're seeing nationally, and some of you are experiencing fewer than normal openings, which is great for your district. Later, we're going to be sharing a data-driven employee engagement strategy that will help with ideas to reduce the number of openings you have, or to continue to position your district as a great place to work. Thank you. All right, so we've been following the trends from national data on employee engagement. For example, the National Center for Education Statistics showed that 8% of teachers in public schools left their jobs between the 2021 and 2022 school years. They also found that 54% of teachers are considering leaving the profession over the next 2 years. From a Pew Research study, we recently learned that 11% of teachers are very likely to look for a new job as stress mounts. So against this backdrop, it's no surprise that teachers and staff are looking for new options for their careers. Historically, the teaching profession was considered a choice that led to a rewarding career and meaningful work. With added benefits like a competitive retirement plan and health insurance, aspiring teachers were attracted to the classroom. However, as the education environment has evolved, particularly post-pandemic, K-12 workers are experiencing the highest burnout rates of all industries and continue to feel undervalued at work, driving them to take their careers elsewhere. And when teachers leave, it only increases the workload for those who stay. As we've partnered with school districts around the country to administer employee engagement surveys, we found that engagement plays a critical role in retaining staff year-round. However, employee engagement in K-12 is consistently lower than national employee engagement rates. According to our research here at K-12 Insight, 24% of staff are considered or classified as highly engaged, which is 8 percentage points lower than the US national average as reported by Gallup. They reported that 32% of employees are engaged. I want to note that our employee engagement survey has 3 classifications for engagement, and the highly engaged classification is what mirrors the non-K-12 Insight data the most. So with this data in mind, school districts have an opportunity to improve employee engagement. It's pivotal for school and district leaders to position their school districts as a welcoming and supportive environment so that it gains a reputation as being a great place to work. Without measuring employee engagement and then taking action on that data, districts risk losing more talented and highly qualified educators. It's important now more than ever to consistently measure employee engagement. Collecting this data helps inform the strategic initiatives that will help retain your staff and keep them engaged. And today, we're going to help position your district as a great place to work and reduce staff attrition by sharing proven strategies for measuring engagement and for measuring and improving employee engagement. One thing to keep in mind is that employee engagement is more than just retention. It's about positioning your district as a place where educators want to work, where they want to grow, and where they want to thrive. As we continue to the next slide, we'll look at some of the factors that influence employee engagement. So there are several factors that influence how engaged an employee is. Some of these include our relationship with our colleagues, district policies, the feedback and recognition we receive, personal safety, opportunities for growth, and work-life balance. Now, of course, how important each of these factors are is going to vary from person to person, but you can use surveys to identify which factors are working well in your district and where there is room for improvement. So let's take a closer look at how you can measure employee engagement in your district. So first, we recommend annual employee engagement surveys. This is an annual survey that covers key focus areas such as the work environment, relationships between colleagues, and opportunities for career growth. And these surveys go out to every staff member in the district, not just teachers. Next is the Employee Net Promoter Score Pulse surveys, also known as eNPS or NPS. This is a short one-question survey that can be distributed regularly throughout the school year. So for example, on a monthly or quarterly cadence. You've probably seen an NPS question before. These are the ones that you get asked, how likely are you to recommend a product or a service to others? In this case, an eNPS pulse survey asks participants or employees how likely they would be to recommend their school, their department, or their district as a place to work. We include the eNPS question on our annual survey as well. But unlike the annual survey that goes out to everyone in the district, the pulse surveys can go out to on a randomized cadence, or they can go out to a targeted audience as needed. We found that districts that measure employee engagement and take initiative to improve based on the data they receive do see improvements at the school and department level. And our team at K-12 Insight partnered with East Maine School District 63 to measure their employee engagement using our annual survey. But before I hand it over to them to share their experience, I want to share a little bit more about what our engagement survey looks like. When our team at K-12 Insight partners with school districts to measure employee engagement, the survey includes questions that address 6 dimensions that you see on the screen. So there's questions about strategic planning, district leadership, school or department leadership, feedback and recognition, the work environment, and career growth and training opportunities. Our employee engagement survey has 3 parts. The first part is overall engagement, which is designed to measure the level of engagement that each employee has. And we classify employees into 3 categories of highly engaged, engaged, or less engaged. Next are the engagement drivers, which consist of questions about various aspects of the work environment. This is where the questions for the 6 dimensions that we just looked at come into play. And then finally, we include engagement by subgroups, which provides information based on demographics, such as the school someone works at or whether they're a classified or certified employee. So once survey data is collected, it can be used to identify the areas of celebration and opportunities for improvement. And one thing that I want to highlight too with our surveys is the importance of context. So every school and then each school and department within that district is unique. So when we work with a school district, each school and department gets their own report. And this allows them to identify their strengths and areas for improvement that are specific to their workplace. This also allows them to develop goals and action steps that are unique to their specific building or department. Now, of course, we do share results district-wide, but being able to see the results at the site level is a valuable element of our surveys. So now that we have explored the foundation of an effective employee engagement survey, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Schleiser and Janet Spector-Bishop to tell us more about their district and their experience in measuring employee engagement.
All right, well, thank you. Again, it's great to be here to share our experience in measuring employee engagement. Just to give you a quick overview before we dive in, East Maine School District 63 is located in the suburbs north of Chicago, and we serve more than 3,700 PK through 8th grade students. We have more than 500 employees working in 7 schools, as well as our district office and our family resource center.
So we had a number of goals when we set out to measure employee engagement during the 23-24 school year. We hadn't used formal surveys in the past to measure engagement. We saw this as an opportunity to get a more comprehensive, objective view of employee engagement in our district. As we plan to repeat this survey over time, we wanted to get a baseline set of measures for our district that we could compare against. And we chose to partner with K-12 Insight to help meet these goals. 2 years in, we've been able to proactively measure engagement, assess changes year over year, and identify areas where employee engagement can be celebrated and improved. And ultimately, these surveys have given us the insights and data needed to ensure that we're providing a place where educators want to work and advance their careers.
So Dr. Schleiser touched on some of this already, but I'll drill down a little bit here and outline some of the benefits in more detail. In the past, we would receive anecdotes and feedback through word of mouth from staff, but we didn't have the data to provide more insight. K-12 Insight helped us pinpoint areas of needed improvement. We were able to get an accurate pulse on what it's like to work for our district. Likewise, in the past, perceptions about morale, salary, benefits, and more tended to result in sweeping generalizations about how the staff was feeling, as the voice of a few people were overrepresented, and often negatively. And many of these perceptions, we have come to learn, were inaccurate. So measuring employee engagement through surveys has allowed us to give employees a voice, clear up misconceptions, and demonstrate to our employees how high engagement truly is throughout the organization. For example, some employees believed that our salary levels were far lower than surrounding districts. We were able to directly address this misconception with facts and data to show that salaries are very competitive and strong when compared to other school districts in our region. And the result has been that taking action to address areas that needed improvement and eliminating misconceptions will help improve our staff retention and recruitment, and ultimately create a strong, stable staff. It enhances student learning and achievement. So, and now we've now conducted the K-12 Insight survey for 2 years. And this year we saw significant positive growth over last year's results. And we believe this is because we did take action on the results and made targeted positive changes.
I should first note that we trusted our results because our response rates both years have been over 70%. K-12 Insight tells us that the average response rate for this survey is 50%. So we were particularly pleased when this year we jumped from a 73% to a 77% participation rate, which we achieved by doing the following. We sent frequent emails to staff, reminders noting how we were doing to date in terms of response rates, how we did last year. We enlisted the assistance of our school administrators to encourage employees to participate. We also shared running response rates with principals so they knew how their schools were doing. We didn't make it a competitive thing, but just made them aware. Because the response rate is so high, we have a great deal of confidence that the results reflect the sentiment among the vast majority of our staff members. And it sets us on solid ground for implementing change. It also means we can place high confidence in the kind of results you see here. We saw our highly engaged employee response rate jump by 3%. And at the individual site level at schools, engagement increased as much as 16%.
Obviously, time doesn't really permit us to share all of our results, but we did want to call out a particular area that after our 23-24 results, we felt needed some attention. Although actually last year's results were fairly strong, we identified a few soft spots when it came to the relationship between school staff and their principals, and when it came to employees feeling recognized and appreciated. And so we took a number of steps throughout the next 12 months to address this, and you can see how such focused action paid off. 88% of our participants strongly agreed that their school administrator is available when needed, which is a 9% increase from our first survey. And then you see some of the bigger jumps, a 15% increase in employees who strongly agreed that their principal recognized them for their work. And this carried over to the district level, and a result, we often see higher results in schools. That school gives the district higher results. We saw a 10% jump in employees who strongly agreed that the district recognizes them for their work. And finally, we saw a 9% increase in participants who strongly agreed that in general, they feel appreciated. So through measuring employee engagement, we learned that the key is to act on the results. When you take action on the data, you can see how it helps enhance the workplaces, and we were able to make positive change.
Yeah, so again, what's important to remember about measuring employee engagement is that you don't just gather the results and put those results in a drawer. I think the most important step is taking action on the data. Here you can see a few specific steps we took after last year's survey to improve engagement. We shared these steps with staff as well, and with our board. You can see me doing that in the picture here with them at a school. So based on survey results, we proactively provided targeted, differentiated professional development for smaller employee groups such as custodians, speech therapists, librarians, music teachers, and so on, to identify needs not only from our classroom teachers, but also support staff. We have about 520 employees. So doing these job-alike focused professional development activities is a great challenge. We've done it in the past, but we got a little more targeted this year and expanded our efforts. Survey comments and results had pinpointed issues with our health insurance, and we were able to make some significant changes through contract bargaining that helped many of our employees. Likewise, we were able to better communicate with employees about how competitive our salaries truly are, as Janet noted earlier. And in our original survey last year, data seemed to indicate that the district could communicate more effectively with school staff. And by keeping more frequent, clear, and transparent communication front and center throughout the following 12 months, we saw jumps in almost every measure related in this area. So with the help of K-12 Insight, we now have a strategic, efficient approach to measuring employee engagement each school year and monitoring results over time. This is allowing us to continue on a path of continuous improvement for years to come.
Thank you so much, Dr. Slizer and Janet. One, it's really helpful to hear your experience, but we also love seeing all the growth that you had. And I think the fact that you shared the results and your action steps made a big difference. Your school highlights exactly what we encourage our partners to do through measuring engagement and then taking action on it. For the final part of our webinar, we'll explore 3 strategies for improving employee engagement across your district. So the most important part of employee engagement is taking action on the data and the feedback that you receive. So East Maine just showed a perfect example of what that can look like when you take action. So while each district has unique needs and opportunities, we've identified 3 areas where you can make changes to begin improving employee engagement. So the first is to provide targeted professional development. Ask your staff what they want to receive for professional development. And then after you ask them, listen to their feedback. Listening to staff allows school and district leaders the chance to design that targeted professional development that not only enhances job satisfaction, but also performance and engagement. Additionally, staff will be more likely to participate in and engage in PD if it's something that's meaningful to them. Next, explore opportunities to provide leadership training to principals and people leaders across your district. So equipping principals and leaders with people management training can help them become catalysts for improving two-way communications, creating caring work environments, and effectively leading and engaging their teams. In our surveys, we often see opportunities to improve feedback and recognition. With that, we recommend encouraging principals to build in feedback and recognition channels at their school level or department level, and even launching employee recognition campaigns. And finally, improve internal customer service. Our team conducted focus groups with school leaders and administrators across several school districts. And what these leaders pointed out was that staff are key customers who are often overlooked within the school district. So we recommend implementing a customer service platform that gives staff access to timely information and support, and then also make sure that their questions or issues are resolved quickly. So now you're ready to start measuring employee engagement and taking action on the data. We've laid out a few steps to help you continue your journey. So the first is to download the report, which you can do using the QR code you see on the screen. With that report, you can continue your learning and access the tools and strategies that we outlined in our webinar today. You'll also find additional employee engagement resources and tools linked throughout that report. We encourage you to share what you learned today with your colleagues. And finally, if you would like to get started with an employee engagement survey, improve internal customer service, or provide targeted professional development, our team here at K-12 Insight would love to meet with you. And with that, we would like to invite you to stay for a Q&A with East Maine. So before we dive into participant questions, I want to kick us off and ask Janet and Dr. Slizer, what advice would you give other districts that are looking to prioritize employee engagement and foster a positive workplace culture?
I think the first step is to get baseline data to understand where you are, and then go from there. You know, understand the conditions and what's happening in your district, and then, you know, look at the results and figure out a common sense path forward on how to, you know, make your school district a better place for your people.
And I would add on to that, paying a lot of attention to the front end and the back end of the process. And by that, I mean, pay very close attention and actively promote participation, because the more participation you have, the better your results. And so instead of just sort of launching it and hoping, really pushing on that, really asking for help to promote it, really encouraging staff to promote it. We did a lot of reassuring about anonymity. And on the back end, reporting back out, sharing the results that we got so that everyone can see them. And we didn't mention it, but once we were done with our presentations at each school, the principals do a presentation of just their school level results back out to their teams. And I think that's a really key part of getting buy-in, maybe for the next survey, the next year.
Yeah, I think it was great that you shared the participation process and how your responses were coming in. I think that that certainly helped encourage people to participate, which is great. And of course, sharing the results is a really key thing, because if the more you share your results, the more likely people or employees are going to want to participate in the coming years. So I see a question. It says, how soon can districts report results back to their community? So we often see districts and school leaders reporting their results within a month of survey close.
We did try, in fact, again, with that preparing up front, we would keep staff posted. In our staff newsletter, we just wrapped it up. We're working on the results. You're going to see it's in your school in a month, so that, you know, they knew when it was coming. And I will say we had the results quite quickly.
That's good. And I think having the results at the site level too, and quickly, allows principals and school and department leaders to then maybe work with their staff to come up with some targeted action plans too. Right. What are common challenges or obstacles school districts face when improving employee engagement? I can answer that, but if you, Dr. Schleiser or Janet, wanted to weigh in on any challenges you faced, I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, my experience is that most of what occurs with employee engagement sort of, hinges on the effectiveness of your school principals and assistant principals, and how effective they are, with their interpersonal relationships, with their communication, with their knowledge of pedagogy and content and so on. So I think, a challenge is making sure you're continuing to develop the key people, so that they can support the staff at the school, but also supporting your administrators so they can be highly effective. That's one thing that comes to mind.
Good advice. Some of the challenges that we see is, one, making the time. There's a lot of results that districts receive. You collect data from not just surveys, but a lot of different sources. And so really making time to dive into that employee engagement data and then developing a targeted action plan. So again, making a time to kind of really review that data. And then another obstacle sometimes we see is that sharing back. As we saw with East Maine, Dr. Schleiser and Janet took a lot of effort to make sure that results were shared across the district and that each school site also saw their own results. So that's a really big component and really important to, once you collect the data, to share it back.
Right, we'll do a last call for any questions. If you have any questions for East Maine about their experience measuring employee engagement, or for K-12 Insight on these surveys, and even providing internal customer service, feel free to drop those in the chat. Otherwise, we will head to our last slide. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you to our presenters, Dr. Sean Schleiser and Janet Spector-Bishop. And thank you to everyone who participated today. We will be emailing you with a copy of the report after this webinar, as well as recording, to feel free to share out with your colleagues. Thank you again, and have a great afternoon.